All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to In the Paint, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5, reacting to Wizards and Nuggets. I'm your host, Dan Tanner, as we'll watch along for the final 4 minutes and 43 seconds here in the fourth quarter. Jamal Murray has brought the Nuggets back from the dead. I mean, they weren't down massive in this game by any means, but he's got 35 points, 4 of 7 from 3, 13 of 22, just hit a couple of big shots to put the Nuggets in the lead over the Washington Wizards. The Nuggets have been trailing 66-65. They just said on the broadcast. So that was the last time the Nuggets led before they're leading right now, 105-102. What I was going to say is they've been trailing for the majority of this second half and kind of struggling throughout, just ramping up their energy, and their offensive pressure has been lacking in this game, but they're finally starting to get it going here in the late stages of this basketball game. So we'll see if the Nuggets can pull this thing out against the Washington Wizards. So there's 4:08 to go. The Nuggets up 105-102. Like I said, Jamal Murray has been phenomenal in this basketball game. Tim Hardaway has hit some massive shots. Peyton Watson it's really been those three guys that have been the main contributors on offense for the Nuggets. Not a lot of help going along with those three guys tonight. In fact, just looking at the scores here real quick. Aaron Gordon has 3 points in 28 minutes. He's struggling offensively. Spencer Jones has 7. Jalen Pickett has 5. Brucey B has 4. Strother in his 6 minutes, no points. Man, that is just tough to see from Julian Strother. He has had a really rough stretch after coming back from his back injury earlier in the year. So we'll see if the Nuggets can pull this one out here. And the Wizards just turned it over and got an easy layup, and it is now tied at 105 with 3:57 to go. So as always, want to get your thoughts on the game. What a crazy sports day, everyone, in the Mile High City. I was at the Broncos game today, was in the locker room, raced home. I tried to go to the arena to go cover this game, and the traffic was so bad around the city and around Empower Field and Ball Arena that I had to just jet straight home so I could catch as much of this game as I possibly could. And I was able to catch the majority of it. So yeah, it's just one of those days in the Mile High City. Awesome win for the Broncos. And we'll see if the Nuggets can make it 2-0 on this Saturday, January 27th for Denver sports teams. So I just wanted to mention before we get back here from the timeout, Alex Sarr, the second overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft out of France. Really excited to see him in this game. He's having a great year, really highly rated prospect in the 2024 NBA draft. And year one, he was, he showed flashes of potential, but he just looked really raw. He looks like he's starting to refine his game more and more. And I think Alex Sarr is going to be one of those guys that turns into a really good NBA player if he can stay healthy. Like, in my opinion, I think he has the potential to be a Joel Embiid type of player if he can stay healthy. Obviously a healthy Joel Embiid type player. Tim Hardaway throws it down with the left hand to put the Nuggets back up by 2, 107-105. A lot of Broncos jerseys in the crowd there at Ball tonight. That's awesome to see. Man, that was a ferocious dunk there by Tim Hardaway. Good to see him take it to the rim and not just settle for three-pointers all the time. That's something I think the Nuggets have done here late in this fourth quarter to get themselves back in contention. Is they've just been way more aggressive driving to the rim, which I've always been a big proponent of. If you've listened to my show over the years, especially with the way they were struggling from the outside early on in this game, I think they've done a much better job of getting it to the rim and then opening up the floor to make those outside shots easier, which they've started to do, and they've been able to start knocking them down. Okay, so the Wizards end up going to the line, and it's Keyshawn George who misses the first. Hits the second. It's a 3-point free throw attempt. He got fouled on a 3-point attempt, so he can tie it up here with a make. Man, what the Nuggets just seem to struggle against the Wizards. If you remember last year, the Wizards, I like their team, like for a young up and coming team. When you suck for that long and you get that many high draft picks, you better be good eventually. And I think they're on that track. But last year it was like, oh my God, the Nuggets lost in Washington and then in Denver to a very bad Washington Wizards team. So it just seems like the Wizards match up well against the Nuggets and they have their number. But what's crazy about the losses last year is the Nuggets were pretty much fully healthy at the time as Aaron Gordon just hits a three to make it 110-107. Finally getting some offensive production from AG tonight. Good to see. But yeah, just, those two losses last year, I was going to say, were without Nikola Jokic, or with Nikola Jokic. This game is obviously without Nikola Jokic. So it's just, for whatever reason, the Nuggets seem to struggle against this Washington Wizards team as the Wizards just hit a corner three to tie it at 110. Man, every single Chris Middleton hit that one. Every game over the last couple of weeks has just come down to the wire, it seems like, for the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray's going to fire a three and drills it. Golly, he is playing at a superstar level right now. For really, the whole season, he has been just tremendous. Good to see from Jamal. Washington misses a corner jumper and is rebounded by Bruce Brown. So the Nuggets are up by 3, just under 2 minutes to go. Jamal's got 38 points and 6 assists on 5 of 8 from 3. Good stuff. Nuggets are trying to extend their lead here, and Jamal Murray's going to get fouled. Okay. Non-shooting foul. I don't believe the Nuggets are in the bonus yet, so it'll be a side out. Okay, so we'll see if the Nuggets can either get to the line here or they just need a 2. You don't need to be jumping up threes here necessarily. I mean, if they can and they hit them, I mean, great. You just need a bucket here, though. Jamal is going to take a mid-range jumper, drills it. He is on fire. Wow. He is on fire. If the Nuggets pull this game out, it is because of Tim Hardaway and Jamal Murray. Washington misses a 3, but gets their offensive rebound. Boy, they have been killing the Nuggets on the offensive glass tonight. And they miss about a 17-footer just past the free throw line. Nuggets get the rebound. So 5-point lead, 1 minute to go. Crowd stands to its feet. And the Wizards will foul. Why would they foul there? And it was Jamal Murray. They fouled Jamal Murray basically right after he got past the half-court line. It's a 5-point game with a minute to go, and they're in the bonus. And you just fouled a 90% free throw shooter. What are they doing? That is a young, immature team that still has to learn how to win close games down the stretch. And this is where, the games like this really favor the Nuggets. Close game, under 2 minutes, veteran championship tested team, and a still young developing team in the Washington Wizards. Jamal hits the first, and here's the second. Got them both. So 7-point lead here. If you get a stop, this thing is it's going to be really tough for Washington to come back in this one. But they do get a bucket to make it 117-112. I still can't believe they fouled Jamal Murray right there. That was so dumb. Bruce Brown, alley-oop to Aaron Gordon. Slammed that thing home. Great execution there from the Nuggets. Washington misses a 3-point attempt, and I don't even think they're going to foul. 7-point lead, 23 seconds to go. Will Washington foul? Oh, they will with 19 seconds. What are they doing? The Wizards do not know how to close out basketball games. This is kind of hilarious, actually. They didn't need to foul Jamal Murray at the half court line with a minute to go. It was a 5-point lead, especially Jamal, their best free throw shooter. And then they waste 10 seconds to send Tim Hardaway to the line, who drills the first. Man, these are the growing pains of a young NBA team. No doubt about that. And Hardaway hits both, 121 to 112. Wow, what a final 5-6 minutes here for the Nuggets as the Wizards will call timeout. This thing's over. Gutsy win. You know, like I said, this was a classic example of a veteran, been there, done that, close game type of team, knows how to do it, and a young NBA team that just has not figured out how to win close games like this, especially on the road. And boy, it's good to see the Nuggets get the win over Washington because, like I mentioned earlier, the Nuggets went 0-2 against a crap Wizards team last season, one in DC and one here. And I remember I was covering that game at Ball Arena, and I don't remember the specific details of it, but I remember I think the Wizards might have won on a last second shot. And I walking out of that building that night, driving home, I could not believe the Nuggets lost that game after losing on the road against a porous Wizards team. So it's good to see them get the first one this year. 19.3 seconds remaining, 121, 112. Crowd's at his feet. And the Nuggets are about to go to 7-3 without Nikola Jokic, everyone. 7-3. Unbelievable. And the Nuggets steal the inbound pass. That was Peyton Watson. It goes out of bounds. It doesn't matter. This thing's over. 15 seconds to go. Yeah, it helps when Peyton Watson has a 7-foot wingspan to pick off inbounds passes like that. There's Keyshawn George. Hits the three. Doesn't matter. 6-point game, 8.5 seconds to go. Will Washington foul here? Don't foul. They're not going to foul. And this thing is over. What a good win for the Nuggets, everybody. I mean, truly, again, I know the Wizards aren't very good. I think they're a much better team this year than they were last year or the last, 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been. They've been one of the worst teams over the last decade, really, but mainly over the last 5 or 6 years in the NBA. And the Nuggets lost both games against the Wizards last year. So it was really good to see the Nuggets be able to pull this one out tonight. Again, your final is 121 to 115. There was a moment in the third quarter. So we've had 2 games in a row now where there were challenges by the opposing team that I just could not believe. So if you remember, on Wednesday, the Nuggets played in Dallas, a game in which they won. And less than 3 minutes into the game, Jason Kidd challenges a call. I don't even remember the specifics of what the play was, but I just remember seeing the replay, and I couldn't believe they challenged that, especially that early in the game. They lose the challenge, and then they're done for the rest of the game. Well, now it wasn't the first quarter or even the first half, but in the third quarter, there was a moment where Marvin Bagley clearly interfered with the ball when it was over the cylinder for the Washington Wizards. Washington, the whole bench is screaming at the referees. They call a timeout to challenge the play. And I'm sitting here just like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I only had to see one replay. That was it. I saw one replay. I'm like, oh, that's obvious. Like, who are some of these video guys for these teams that are getting in the coach's ears and telling him to challenge these plays? It doesn't make any sense. If I'm sitting at home and I can watch one replay and say, oh, that's easy. It was clearly over the cylinder. Bagley interfered with it. It's offensive goaltending. And they challenge it anyways. Like even Marvin Bagley after the play was kind of just like, yeah, I know I did that. And then they challenged it and they obviously lost the challenge. That's something where I will give the Nuggets credit, and I'll even throw this back to like the Michael Malone era. I know it wasn't that long ago. It was literally this time last year was the Michael Malone era. I get it. But the Nuggets, for what it's worth, are pretty good at when and when not to challenge. Now, of course, they've had a couple of challenges over the last couple of seasons that were pretty questionable early on in games, like the kind of challenges I'm complaining about right now. But I would say for the most part, they've been pretty good at deciding when or when not to challenge. And it's very important with the way the rules are set up in the NBA in regards to challenges. Because obviously, if you remember the first year they introduced challenges into the NBA, it was the dumbest rule ever. They said you get one challenge and that's it. Even if you win the challenge, that's it. It's like, really? Okay, so you're admitting you got the call wrong. Okay. You made the wrong call. We're gonna fix it, but you're done with challenges. So a lot of people were complaining about that. Okay, so they tweaked it a little bit. Adam Silver heard people complaining, I guess. And they said, okay, the following season, well, here's what we're gonna do. If you win the first challenge, you get a second. I mean, it's better than how it was originally. But my whole point here is, and DMAC and I have talked about this before, you should continue getting challenges until you lose a challenge. And by the way, that should go for any sport, period. I don't care if it's hockey, NFL, Major League Baseball, like whatever. Because if you win a challenge, that's the refs saying, we made the wrong call. You're right. Our bad. So I don't know. To me, that it's just like you should be able to challenge until you lose a challenge. And if you lose your first challenge, then you're done. I'm fine with that. Okay. Got it. Like I understand the league's position on this is, well, we don't want to stop the flow of the game. We don't want to extend the game for longer than we need to. Okay, fair. I would argue, well, train up your officials better and stop getting so many freaking calls wrong. I would start there. But if they're getting the calls wrong and you're winning these challenges, why would you only get a limited number? That just doesn't make sense to me. So anyways, that was kind of my my diatribe or whatever there on how dumb I think the challenge rules are. And it's not just the NBA. Like I said, it's pretty much all the professional sports have a weird rule like that. Like, here's what I would say too. Something that the NFL did this year that I think has worked out. It might have started last year, but either way, that I think has worked out brilliantly and actually sped the games up a little bit. They have the assisted replay. So we saw it today in the Broncos game. If they rule a first down, actually, hey, the league called in. We have video evidence that he was short of the line to gain. Great. That's what I'm all for. I think that's something that all of the sports leagues need to seriously consider adopting and implementing into how they run these calls. I mean, if there's an out of bounds play or whatever, a foul call that is just an egregious call, it's obviously wrong. And a coaching staff has to sit there before a 15 to 20 second break before they inbound the ball to see if it was the wrong call. Well, they should have the league offices reviewing all of that stuff, just like the NFL does. And if they see clear visual evidence that they got a call wrong, well, then just call down to the officials and say, whoa, you missed that one. You got the call wrong. I mean, I don't know. Y'all tell me, like, I think it's worked out pretty freaking well in the NFL, all things considered. It's never going to be perfect. I'm not asking refereeing to be perfect, but I'm asking them to make it as streamlined and as close to perfect as they possibly can. So, anyways, just these dumbass challenges from some of these teams across the leagues have been driving me absolutely crazy. And it's just about time that they get that stuff figured out. So, anyways, let's get to some of your comments here. By the way, I know I mentioned this earlier, but 7-3 the Nuggets are now without Nikola Jokic. That is astounding. The fact that they have been able to not just tread water, not just survive while Nikola Jokic has been out for the last 10 games, they've been excelling. I mean, you go 7-3 over the course of a 6-month regular season, every 10 games, and you're going to be one of the top seeds in whatever conference you're in, most likely. I don't know what the math works out to. I'd have to do that, but it would, I promise you, it would lead to a very good record. So the fact that they've been able to go 7-3 over this stretch, in a stretch where I was hoping the Nuggets would be able to hopefully, I thought best case scenario for this team. And again, it's not just Joker out. It's Cam Johnson. It's Jonas Valanciunas. Jamal Murray's missed time. Aaron Gordon's missed time. Christian Brown is out again. I thought with all of the injuries, specifically to Nikola Jokic, obviously, that they would be lucky to go 500 until he returned. I thought that was the best case scenario for this team. Now, he's still out for, another couple of weeks. Hopefully he's back within 2 weeks. That is the timeline. But if they're able to continue this sort of 7-3 type of stretch, that would be one of the more shocking things with this Denver Nuggets team over the last couple of years that I've seen, honestly. Especially thinking about how bad they've been over the last 2 years when Nikola Jokic goes off the floor. I mean, they're literally the best. Over the last 2 years, they were the best offensive team in the NBA with Nikola Jokic on the floor. When he left the game to rest on the bench, they turned into the worst offensive team in the NBA. So they went from literally number 1 to number 30. So the fact that they're able to not only be surviving right now, but thriving is shocking to me. It really is. And, I guess hindsight's 2020. It's easier for me to say this now, but I guess I could have looked at this a little bit differently. And again, I'm factoring in all the other injuries they have. I mean, their backup center, who's been great this year, Jonas Valanciunas, is out also. But with the way Peyton Watson's been playing this year, even before the injuries happened, he was having a really good year, and he's just kicked it up an extra gear or two since the injury bug stretch has hit this Denver Nuggets team. With the way Jamal Murray opened the season and has continued to shine, just like we saw tonight, with the way Tim Hardaway emerged as a legitimate sixth man of the year candidate, and Bruce Brown's been healthy. I know a lot of Nuggets fans have been underwhelmed by Bruce Brown in his return to the Nuggets, myself included. I've talked about that extensively. I think he's been okay. We just haven't seen the Bruce Brown we saw in 2023. And hopefully we start to see more of that version of Bruce Brown. I think a guy like Bruce Brown, unfortunately, is a little bit more Jokic dependent than some of these other guys. But I was not expecting Jalen Pickett to play as well as he has over the injury bug stretch. I was not expecting Peyton Watson to elevate his game to where it is right now over this stretch. I've always loved Peyton Watson. Always been very high on him. Always said he can be an excellent starter in this league. But he's not only playing like a legitimate starter on most, if not all, NBA teams. He's playing at an all-star caliber level right now. Over the last month, if he plays this way for the entirety of this regular season, Peyton Watson, I mean, he would be in serious consideration to make the all-star team. Now, I know the all-star game is kind of a different format this year. There's 2 American teams, I believe, and 1 European team. I think that's what it is. He would have at least be in consideration and should have been in consideration. Like, I'm telling you, I did not see this coming from Peyton Watson this year. I saw a significant jump coming, but I didn't see him playing at like a legitimately all-star caliber level like he's been playing at right now. And again, this isn't a flash in the pan for Peyton Watson. This is, I've said this before. I think this is just who he is now. Like, this is the player he has turned into over the last month is who he is and might continue getting better. So, boy, do the Nuggets need to find a way to pay him. They've got to figure out a way to keep him. I mean, I know DMAC and I have gone over certain scenarios. Would you, won't you? How do they keep Peyton Watson? Because the problem is Peyton's going to get paid this offseason. There's no doubt about it. And deservedly so. Shoot, if I'm a team like the Washington Wizards, you willing to pay Peyton Watson $25 million a year? I sure would be, you know? If you're one of these young, up-and-coming teams and you've got a lot of cap space, why wouldn't you take a swing at Peyton Watson? Of course you would. So the Nuggets do have that. That is the problem. It's finances. It's cap space. It's the second apron. And I don't want to hear, if the Nuggets don't go into the second apron, that means they're cheap. No, it doesn't. Do you know how many teams are in the second apron right now in the NBA? 0. Nobody wants to go into the second apron. And it's not because these teams are cheap. I mean, I don't know. Some of them probably are. But the reason that teams don't want to go into the second apron is because it really hamstrings teams down the road. It makes it really difficult to sustain success. So anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts there. Nuggets win 121-115. They're 7-3 without Nikola Jokic. I just cannot believe that. Let's see what I believe the Spurs won tonight, but the Nuggets the Spurs did win. So they're tied with the Spurs for the 2 seed. They're both 29-13. The Nuggets, like I said, they're 7-3 over their last 10. The Spurs are 6-4 over their last 10. The Nuggets have won 4 games in a row. Spurs have won 2. The Thunder have lost 1. So the Spurs and the Nuggets have both gained ground on the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're just now, their lead in the Western Conference is only 5.5 games. Think about that statement, I don't know, a month ago when the Thunder started like 32-2 or whatever it was. They have 2 teams that are only 5.5 games back. We're still a couple of weeks away from the All-Star break. We're just over the halfway point of the NBA season. That is incredible. The Western Conference this year is unbelievable. The Spurs and Nuggets, 29-13. The Timberwolves are 27-16. Rockets are 24-15. Boy, they've kind of fallen back a little bit, haven't they? The Lakers have fallen back a little bit too. They're 24-15. They're in the 6th seed. Phoenix, Golden State, Portland, LA Clippers. Those are your top 10 play-in or playoff teams right now in the Western Conference. And the Nuggets are tied for the 2 seed with all of the injuries they've had. Is just, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible to watch. All right. Before we get out of here, I do want to get to your comments on the win. Marion, hey DT, appreciate you listening. Glad for the W. Yep. Here we go. Let's go Nuggets. Let's go Broncos. What a great day it was today for the Mile High City. By the way, there's something that happened that I'm purposely not even going to mention because both teams won, and that's all I want to talk about. So good win for both teams. Kevin says, what a win. Yeah, It really is. This game felt like the Nuggets. It was one of those like weird Nuggets games where they just didn't have it. And again, this happened last year against the Wizards, both times they played in DC and in Denver. And it felt like the same sort of vibe in tonight's game, but the Nuggets they found a way to close it out. And they've been so good in the last 5 minutes of games over the last 10, 12 games. They really have been. They're one of the best clutch teams in the NBA, meaning it's a tight game with 5 or less minutes to go. They've been tremendous during those stretches, and that's, again, what we saw tonight. The Wizards just made so many dumb mistakes down the stretch. I couldn't believe some of the mistakes they were making. The challenge they had where it was clearly over the cylinder. Marvin Bagley touched the ball over the cylinder. It goes in. They call offensive goaltending. I saw one replay, and it was obvious. And they still challenged it, and they obviously lost the challenge. I just couldn't believe it. And then there's a minute to go. It's a 5-point game, and they fouled Jamal Murray at the half-court line, their best free throw shooter. You didn't need to foul him there. Like, what are you doing? So it's just little things like that where it's like, wow, that's a learning process game right there tonight for the Washington Wizards. You can bet that they're going to have to go over. The coaching staff for the Washington Wizards that will be teaching tape for that young team, because they made some boneheaded mistakes in that game that help the Nuggets mount the comeback. Let's see here. Marion says some rule changes still need improvement. I would be curious what other rule changes you would implement. I love talking about rule changes. I was making the case that you shouldn't run out of challenges until you lose the challenge, period. If the call is wrong, why would you be restricted on challenging again? That doesn't make any sense. I don't care if it slows the game down. Get the calls right. That's what I care about. And by the way, NBA games average like 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's it. They're not that long. I mean, NFL games are well over 3 hours. Hockey games are probably like, I don't know, 20 to 25 minutes longer than NBA games. Baseball games are longer than NBA games. The length of NBA games is fine. Now, I don't want them to extend it all that much, but if it's to get calls right and it's going to add 5 minutes to the game, who cares? Who cares? All right, Dante says, correct, DT. You get 2 challenges and you get to keep challenging until you run out of wrong. Right. That's what I'm saying. But that should be in every sport. That's just common sense. If they got the call wrong and it's your final challenge, why are you getting penalized for that? Doesn't make any sense. So just stuff that bugs me. All right. Somebody said Coach Adelman is talking. Let me see if I can go back and we can hear some. Yeah, I got it. I got it right here. So let me just rewind this a little bit. I've got Altitude Plus on my laptop, so I just got to fast forward it to Coach Adelman. I'd be curious to hear his thoughts on the game tonight. Boy, I know I've been talking about Coach Adelman over the last 10 games without Nikola Jokic, but I really just can't emphasize enough the hell of a job that he and his coaching staff have done throughout this stretch with all of the injuries they've had. I mean, how is he not in the Coach of the Year running at this point? Seriously, if he's not in the Coach of the Year running by the end of this regular season, what are we doing? Somebody's not watching the Denver Nuggets if that's the case, because he has been absolutely phenomenal. All right, let's hear from the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, David Adelman.
But a much better effort in the fourth quarter, just to try to win the rebound. And I just trying to find a group that had some juice to track down loose balls. I thought Bruce was really good in this game. It's not the stats; it's the plus 10. He really got into them, sped them up a little bit, which helped our defense. And then Jamal and Tim, they're having special years, but I think they had 31 of our 38 in the fourth. So we finally got a couple guys get hot. But yeah, it was a really odd game, weird game. And it was like we just did enough to stay in the game of a really ugly start. Regardless of the points we were scoring, it felt like a game we were going to get, fall behind, just with the energy. And I thought the guys just found a way in the fourth quarter to galvanize themselves. get themselves going. And there's a lot of ways to win these games. And I just told them in there, and I mean it. If we lost this game, we'd remember it. We won't remember this game now because we won it. It's just part of the tally of the season. So it's just there's just certain nights where the energy's off, and you just have to find a way to stay in it long enough to win it. And that's what we did.
Down 7 with about 9 minutes left. You get the ATO for Tim on that corner 3. He hits another one in rhythm. Do you feel like that kind of got everyone else going as far as turning the game around before the guys sort of feed off that little stretch?
I think so. And I think I brought Aaron in a little earlier than I wanted to, but he immediately changed the glass too. He just shored up because we had so many possessions. I thought where we sat down and guarded because we had to, because we're behind, and the guys were really giving a lot of effort, and then they would tip it back in. Middleton gets the end one off the glass. Like we just weren't physical enough. And we had talked about this is what this team does. And they did it throughout the night. So yeah, it was such an odd night. And then Jamal, he's so special, man, late game and getting the ball in his hands, letting him make decisions. So it was, did not want to play him that many minutes, but that's what the game demanded tonight. So unfortunately it worked out for us.
What do you feel like you guys have figured out in the clutch recently?
You know what? I thought early in the year, you miss shots and you lose, and they say you're not clutch. But I feel like we have been for like a decade. So I don't know. Like I feel like we were pretty clutch in the playoffs last year. So I think it just has a thing that just comes around. We have seen some different things with teams, early when we were fully healthy, with full rotations, pre-rotations behind our initial 2-man action. And tonight I thought we handled it well. A couple of times guys flashed the middle. When they full rotated, they doubled Jamal, pre-rotated the next man, and we found a way to move the ball, pass the ball, and get good looks. That's all you can ask for is just getting a good shot late, especially when they put 2 people on your best players.
You mentioned good looks, but a lot of these shots are still very tough that these guys are putting. Like this shot-making season that you guys are putting together right now has been really, really impressive. Just when you get into that level of rhythm, just what are you trying to instill with this group in terms of continuing to fight for even better looks versus just letting these guys just do what they do?
Yeah, I think it's confidence. So, there's certain people in our league that can do things other guys can't. And Jamal's a shot maker. And there's also times where we really moved the ball well. We had 31 assists. So, we had 17 at the half. When they start to switch 1 through 5, sometimes this league does become isolation based, and that's just the way it is. And sometimes your best players just have to make plays. Aaron made an enormous 3, and obviously Jamal went to work in space. We were trying to stay with the split game late, got some good things out of it. But more importantly, just making them have to make decisions where maybe they screw up, and they did a few times where they switched down the floor and they gave Jamal some space just to pull up and shoot it. Look, this is professional sports. So you play as a team. And Aaron has 11 assists in this game. We played through him off the elbows, just like we would if Nikola was playing. So trying to stay within what you do, but also letting your best guys do what they do. And with confidence is part of this whole thing.
All right. There is David Adelman as the Nuggets get the win over the Washington Wizards. That was an interesting comment there from Coach Adelman talking about sometimes in this league, when teams are switching, you just goes to isolation basketball. That's just the way it is, because the reason I find that interesting is because I've been critical of the Nuggets at times this year for when they struggle at various points on offense throughout a game. My criticism has been, well, they tend to go too much isolation, dribble the air out of the basketball one-on-one versus cutting to the rim, moving the basketball all over the floor, moving the basketball and moving without the basketball. Those have been sort of my criticisms. But what Coach said there makes sense. If they're switching, if a big gets switched on to Jamal and it's a good matchup for Jamal, well, then you probably do want him to go one-on-one. But I just think there's been times this year where the Nuggets have been going to isolation basketball a little bit too much at various points throughout a game, and it's hurt them. What I've noticed is sometimes when they go isolation one-on-one, it sort of kills their momentum and their flow and their rhythm on offense, and that's when they have seemed to struggle. Now, I get it. Like, I'm not saying that teams can never go isolation. If you have a great matchup, and Jamal Murray is a great example of that, or a guy like Tim Hardaway, guys that could, Peyton Watson even at times. guys that can take you off the dribble. Jamal is kind of an extra level above either of those guys because he's such a special shot creator and shot maker in isolation. He can just hit shots that you just heard coach say it right there, that just so many guys in this league just aren't able to hit. There's only a handful of guys like that. You know, a guy like Steph Curry is an example of that. I'm not saying Jamal is Steph Curry, but they're similar in that way where they can take over games in isolation. I just don't want that to be the formula for this team on offense. And I don't think it is. But again, I just find that has seemed to get the Nuggets in trouble at various points throughout the course of this regular season when they go too much isolation and the rhythm and the flow of the offense tends to slow down, and that's when they let a lot of teams back into games. So it is sort of an interesting dynamic there of when to go ISO and when not to. It's matchup based. You know, when Nikola Jokic is in there, it's not nearly as big of an issue because he's always going to make the right play. And to Jamal Murray's credit, I've said this before, but my favorite thing from Jamal Murray this season that I think he's doing this year that he hasn't really done earlier on in his career, at least to this level, is his decision-making on when to shoot the ball, go isolation, or be a facilitator. That's the biggest jump I've seen out of Jamal Murray this year. We've seen games where he's had 17 assists and 18 assists, both career highs. We saw a game, might have been the Dallas game actually even, where he has 14 points in the first quarter. He's a scorer, and then the Mavs change up how they're defending him, and he's got to be a facilitator. And he's starting to recognize that more often, and I think that is the next step in his evolution as a basketball player that he's taken this year. Now, he's always had that in him, and I think playing with Nikola Jokic for a decade now probably helps with that because Joker's the best in the world, maybe of all time, at being able to switch from primarily scoring versus primarily facilitating. That's what makes him part of what makes Joker so great. But it just seems like Jamal in that specific area has really grown as a basketball player this year. And during this stretch, with no Nikola Jokic, Jamal is your primary facilitator. There's no doubt about it. Because when Joker's in there, it's just kind of whoever between those two can be the primary facilitator. Most of the time it's Nikola Jokic, and rightfully so. But now it's on Jamal Murray and Jamal Murray solely to be that facilitator on this team. The beauty with Jamal is he's an excellent scorer too. So that was kind of cool to hear Coach Adelman sort of explain why sometimes they'll get into these, I don't even want to say ruts or lulls, but these scenarios in games where they do tend to go more isolation, because that's something I've talked about throughout the course of this regular season, and it's gotten them into trouble at times. But yeah, and you just heard it there that he didn't want to bring Aaron Gordon back in as early as he did. He's still on a minutes restriction. I think he's capped at like 30 minutes a game. But when Aaron Gordon came back in, he did change the dynamics on the glass. And Washington dominated the glass in this game. Specifically, their offensive rebounding was what was killing the Nuggets early in this game. So another smart move there by Nuggets head coach David Adelman. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for the post-game show tonight. Excellent win for the Nuggets. They're 29-13 on the year. They've won 4 games in a row. They're 7-3 over their last 10. They're rocking and rolling right now. Even with all the injuries, they win 121-115. Jamal Murray goes for 42 points and 6 assists tonight. Also poured in 5 3-pointers. Tim Hardaway had 30 off the bench. Peyton Watson had over 20 points again. So it was a team effort tonight, and it's been a team effort over the last month or so of the season. So excellent win again for your Denver Nuggets tonight. All right, we'll be back coming up tomorrow. We've got the Charlotte Hornets in town coming to Ball Arena, and a really good chance for the Nuggets to go 8-3 without Nikola Jokic. I don't want to speak too soon, but the Hornets are not very good. I'm sure all of you watching are very aware of that. So it's still the NBA, still pro sports, but a very, very winnable game coming up for the Denver Nuggets tomorrow night. We will talk to you then. Thank you so much for listening to In the Paint.